Guys, I love technology. I will never stop talking about it. I will never stop bringing speakers to talk about legal technology, about legal ops, about AI in general, and about any kind of technology that help us do our work. This is the right moment for it because everything is evolving and everything is new and we are learning by doing. And the more we talk about it, the more we get to the bottom of things and know how to use it to develop the level of our service and to develop our knowledge. So for this, today, I'm inviting one of the experts, someone who started in legal tech even before the word came out, before it became something, who started doing technology for the legal industry when it was a marketplace, and then she took it up until she is an expert right now with legal operations and legal technology. And today we're going to ask her all the questions. We're going to explore her background and her experience, and we'll take from her as much as we can to help us, help our knowledge, and guide us how to run our jobs and how to run our operations. Today, my guest is Suzanna Kalendzhian. Good morning, I'm back again with Monday Legal. My guest for today is Suzanna Kalendzhian, a legal tech and legal ops expert and a very dear friend of mine. And I asked her to be with us today to explore and talk again about legal tech and legal ops. Good morning, and thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Suzanna, can you please unlock for us this term? Because a lot of people come and talk and they explain what is legal tech and what is legal ops. And in general, we as practicing lawyers, these terms are quite new to us. And in general, we're trying to understand and work a lot with technology. But then when everybody's telling us that there's a dedicated legal technology that we should use and we should not go to the other solutions and so on, we get a little bit overwhelmed and not understand what's going on. But before you go into that, I would like to ask you first to tell us a little bit about your start and how did you come into this field?
Well, it's actually two connected topics because how I came to this field is what was missing in the educational field. Because when we are trained as lawyers, and I'm a corporate and commercial lawyer by trade, so what we are learned to do is, as lawyers, we are very backward-looking sort of professionals because we tend to take lawyers, take legal, take law from the books, implement it in business or in life, in like our whatever we do, litigation or corporate, and not even look beyond that. So law is nothing but logic. There is if this, then that logic. We were working like this for many years. Before, the good lawyers were the people that knew the law from, core to core, like everything.
Memorize it by heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was the good lawyer, the essence. That's why they were very specialized in like family law or litigation. Now lawyers are more broad. Why? Because if you are a good lawyer, you can find information easily.
Yeah.
So then there was a technology that would help you find that information and implement it for your clients. Then the speed of the information became, a bigger player. And the good lawyer became the lawyer that would find the information faster, sort of have you back in a better workflow with the client and update you faster. So the speed became like the core of what we do as a skill set for the lawyers. Nothing, like we are in 2025, nothing of the sort is still being trained at law schools till now, if you can believe it or not. So when I came to Dubai in 2011, like in Ukraine, we already had like emails officially, like you can send an email and that would be like a delivery of the documents. Here at that time, you had to be a local lawyer in order to deliver the papers into the court. And it was like all very, very manual. All the paperwork, all the contracts, all laws and regulations were only published and then like official gazette and stuff, it.
Yeah.
So I thought there should be a better way of doing these things. So I'm very grateful to my first law firm that took me because they were very open to the idea of like making things better. We had the whole room full of files. And so we started digitizing those files and putting them into the CRM system. So that was my first ever, if you talk about legal tech, that was my first ever legal tech experience, digitizing, not digitalizing, but digitizing the actual papers into the digital format. Then in the ZLM system, we started adding like clients' information, meta management, and like more and more. Because it was so innovative and new to the market, I've been referred to one law firm after another law firm after another law firm. At some point, I automated like over 200 firms, including yours, actually. At some point, I've helped you as well. And in 2015, me and my co-founder, we started a business, which was, again, from my perspective, very e-commerce business, but we first time heard the term legal tech business. And we were actually against it because we were not a law firm and we were not providing any legal advice. We were just this platform that will allow lawyers to find clients and the other way around. Open for everyone, initially free of cost. Right now, still you can get free advice on the platform. Then we added like a paid services and lawyers, to be on the platform, they pay subscription fee. We at that time were introduced to this as a legal tech and the impact of the technology. While I was doing all of these automations, I was called IT lawyer, which is not the right term because IT lawyer is the one that works on, IT issues and kind of, protects the IT. Then it was law tech. Then it was something else. So the term sort of moved from like, she's doing something like an IT systems for lawyers into like legal technology and operations, meaning I'm the person that will come map out your processes within your organization. What it means is like every single step you do within your law firm, let's take end-to-end contracting, for example. You receive a request from the business if you are in-house to draft a certain contract. Then you go and you look for a template or you draft it from the beginning. You look in the precedent. All of this is a process that I map out and I try to understand how you do it. The more manual work is in there, the more repetitive tasks are there, the happier I am because the more work is there for me. And then in a short sort of term, legal ops is everything to do with the way lawyers do business, perform the service to clients at today's day.
Yeah, I remember very well the very first days of Legal Advice Middle East when you were launching the platform. The word legal tech or legal ops were not there, and all what we relied on at that time was a website for lead generation, a website for free legal advice, a platform for matching clients with lawyers, and there were some profiles and so on. What
Listings.
Exactly, listings, articles.
Papers.
Exactly, there was
how we were looking for lawyers.
Things.
Or the chat. You remember forums? When I came to Dubai, it was a big thing.
Yes.
Like you would have kittens and recommendation for restaurants and then lawyers and the real estate all at once, like no professional platform.
Exactly. And what was significant at that time for me was it was the first time ever I was answering legal questions to strangers, to people that I don't know. I usually get an email from one guy based on referral, and I know who is coming from, and I answer the question and just hope that he gets back to me because I can close a deal. When you introduced your platform, there was like 100 questions, so 100 leads at that time. So it was a lot of fun. I was really doing it out of enjoyment. I was enjoying answering questions here and there, and I was able to get clients from there. And at that time, it was, as you said, it's e-commerce. It was like a marketplace for lawyers. Did you face a lot of challenges? Because for me, for example, I was so enjoying. I was so happy to be on the platform all day long answering questions. Did you meet a lot of challenges to convince lawyers to come into it?
That's why we are very good friends for a very long time. Because what I remember the most out of my entrepreneurial experience is the first 2 months when I booked 50 meetings with lawyers, with law firms around Dubai. And I was driving, obviously, it was before COVID, so you had to meet in person, you had to drink coffees at every place, you need to like find a parking, all of that. It was a hustle in and of itself. But the meetings, oh my God. I remember people were offering me jobs. They were saying like, "Oh, Habibi, you are so nice. This is not going to
Come work for us.
Come work for us. Like, why do you need this? This is not. Come on." And then some was saying like, "Oh, it's not something that I don't think our clients are there."
Did you get one of those lectures? It's like, let me introduce you to the world of law and how it works.
Oh my God. Being young and being a woman in the Middle East, I've had all kinds of things being like men explained to me over and over again. And I was there and the good thing about all of this experience is that my co-founder was the most supportive person out of everyone. He's like, and I was sitting in the car after almost every meeting during the day and was just crying, thinking like, what am I doing? Like people don't even understand the concept of what we are doing. And then there was a pivotal moment when we had enough lawyers on the platform to make a difference. And then whatever you Google, you'll find, in both English and Arabic, you'll find our page in the first drop up, like before any ads, before anything. And then when this started like popping up in a lot of law firms, like as a search, because you look for laws and regulations. So we put a lot of laws and regulations that we've translated, that we structured, easy to search, like navigate. We then had references from global sort of libraries of laws and regulations for the Middle East pointing at us, so our domain became bigger and bigger. Then we had the support from, the pivotal moment in general. In 2016, the Hague Institute of Innovation and Law came to us, and they essentially explained to us what our business means to the region. That we are making it safe, that people seeing that there is like an open platform for laws and regulations, it makes them sort of not be so, judgmental. Yeah. Because the region was like, at that time, you not compare it to now when people are
very nicely judged.
Yeah, exactly. So at that time, they've calculated the impact of how many people lives we can like help, and access to justice term was also introduced to us. They help us understand the depthness of what we were doing. It helped a lot because we then sort of looked at our business in a different perspective, because it was a business before, and then it got a meaning. I know that usually people have a meaning first and then they move, but I really saw the pain of lawyers not being able to find good leads and work with proper clients. And again, people are coming and going in Dubai, so you really can't build this pipeline of clients as you would do anywhere else. So my mind was more commercial, and the Hague Institute of Innovation and Law introduced us to Legal Affairs Department, introduced us to Ministry of Justice, and we've done many projects with Ministry of Justice. So even now we have an official duplication of the website, which is connected to databases of the LAD and Ministry of Justice, where all the local lawyers, there is a separate website for all the local lawyers that work under the Ministry of Justice. We've done multiple projects with them where we sort of try to have the market visibility on what kind of questions are being asked, what kind of services being provided, and like what is needed, because they had a strategy of making law more accessible, and we sort of played a pivotal role for them as well in being in this region. Then I started adding the regions, and now we are in 18 countries, and I've traveled and I've sort of meet the people, and then it became easier. But at the beginning, no one actually believed in what we were doing. It was so new and so out of time that I think at some point I was even thinking like we launched too early. We had no support. The market was not ready. Everyone was investing at that time in e-commerce, but buy, sell goods. 90% of those companies are dead by now, but at that time, I felt like I'm missing out. I'm doing something that is not... Oh, and investors, this is a whole separate topic, but they were like advising us to go into document management system, into like IT systems for lawyers, into like more
creating CRM or creating things. Yeah.
More customer service rather than, facing clients. Which would have been a better idea at that time, probably because there was nothing regional based, and business-wise, it probably made sense. But then we already had that mission. We already had the Hague saying us that it's the most important thing ever, access to justice, do it. So yeah, it's just a different time, different values.
And hearing you speaking about this, I realized that it took you a lot of time to, from where you started until now, or from where you started in many stages. How did the technology itself evolve? Because technology was much faster than, of course, technology is always much faster, but I mean, it was too fast to follow, and you developed this platform from being just a question and answer and access to justice, or providing access to PDF documents and articles and so on, into something else. How did the technology evolve with you?
So at the beginning, when we were starting, we took an idea from the US-based company called Avvo, and there was another one, LegalZoom. They were doing pretty similar, but at the same time, they had legacy systems in all the lawyers that they worked with. I worked with lawyers that had nothing, zero. Like they still would have, I don't know, like an email, official email. Like if it's going to be like elnaggar.ae, great. Usually just Google, just Yandex, just something.
Yeah.
So I had to help those law firms also navigate after the lead generation, the CRM, right? So I started working with them on implementing matter management and CRM systems for them. And at that time, there were simple systems that would help with this process. Then they started being more advanced. Then they became powered with automation. So let's say if there is a lead that you received, that you responded, and the person bought the service, we can plug that in through API to your CRM system, and it will be converted, sort of documented with finance information, with like everything. So we started playing because we had so many, questions asked in natural language and lawyers responding in a proper language, not legal language.
Yeah.
It was also a pivotal moment for people to realize that lawyers can speak not legalese, but the proper
Yes.
language, simple, plain language, and they would understand them, and it would build trust as well. That's the whole separate also conversation about lawyers being too lawyery. And in this region, it just, the language is different, so lawyers can actually speak plain language. And we started working on like some first initial machine learning algorithms on our platform, playing with the data and trying to understand how to help lawyers navigate all those hundreds of questions. So you'll have the most relevant questions on top. It was a very simple sort of play with AI, not AI, it was machine learning algorithms, very simple, open source. And we were trying to play with this information to just aggregate it faster, to help with translation, to help lawyers answer. Then we've added OpenAI, and OpenAI right now analyzes the whole system so that it can help you as a lawyer get the most relevant questions to cut the time of answer and help the client to make the right decision. My evolution, because I'm very geeky, you know me, I love everything new all the time. It's like my core values is change, transformation, innovation, everything to do with strategy building, like thinking forward. That's me. So I would test everything I have like access to. I would travel to all the conferences. So there was no conversation here. Now you see TR is doing like legal ops and tech. You see LexisNexis, you see PwC, you see all of these bigger companies would bring talents into Dubai for like conferences, and you will hear people speak about like legal ops, legal technology, how they operate, how they automate stuff. At that time, here, litigation conferences, something about migration laws, like very specific, very boring, very super lawyery conferences. So I would travel to Sydney, I would travel to London, I would travel to New York to just listen to those people, like LegalZoom, like Avvo, like all of these guys that I was looking at and thinking like, oh my God, I wish I had that, infrastructure around me, because we were building it for all the other tech companies, legal tech companies, to come in here and then, sort of pick up. Because the same as, for example, if you remember, there was a company before Amazon that Amazon acquired here, was Souk.
True, yes.
So what they've done is not that they've built the market or, that's why Amazon bought them, is because they built payments system that was not here, because they already convinced and find buyers and sellers to like work on the system. They've prepared the whole region. They had infrastructure in place. So basically, they built the roads for bigger trucks to come and then just use them. This is pretty similar to what we have done in terms of like legal tech, because at that time when we started, no one actually knew what that is. No one believed in legal tech. Everyone thought that lawyers, everyone is talking about lawyers being overwhelmed and taken over by robots. No one believed ever until now when there is an AI conversations. Lawyers are still skeptical. They're like, I have a vision. I'm so knowledgeable. I'm so good that it's never going to happen. So at that time, it was even more because they had this confidence in them.
Yeah, it was not even visible to anybody that actually machine learning will develop so much into an AI tool that can talk to you.
Decades.
Yeah.
This is what we had in our mind. And this is what the people here, especially in this region, like everything being super cool, super new, and advanced. And at the same time, the legal system was still lagging behind so much, even comparing to like global, which now is a bigger advantage. We can talk about this later, but in general, I think this region has the biggest advantage over like everyone in the world for a very small reason, because we don't have legacy systems to deal with.
Yeah, this is one of the things as well that I started to notice is that there's a jump from where we were 10 years ago till now, that we only talk about legal tech and we only talk about legal ops, and everybody is investing in knowledge system. Everybody is investing in technology. And for this, I would like to understand, what do you see that the region need, or let's say the smaller law firms, the regular law firms who are like 10 to 100, they need now to make the change because technology is overwhelming and it's kind of expensive.
It's getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. That's the good news. So now the systems that are super AI, super advanced, that can do everything for you end to end for all the things contracting and work like in seconds, cost you $200 a month. It was nothing like that even a year ago.
Yeah.
The AI systems, why they are completely transformational and innovative in a way that is like an iPhone introduction, is because initially it was very expensive, but it can do so much and it can analyze so much. And it reached to the point where like we can deal with the data, even given it a very simple prompt right now, or like very crappy prompt as well. It can still understand what you mean because it has enough, level of data and understanding. It's also, because of this advancement, doesn't require that much energy, so it's getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And now it's basically market game and market play for everything AI. DeepSeek completely destroyed the market because they built the systems that took OpenAI 6 years and billions of dollars for like 6 million in 6 months. $6 million. Like you look at it and you think it's a big amount, but for the systems like that, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So something like that is going to pop up every single day. So my advice to all of my smaller clients is usually picking up the tech that is easy to use. And it's not like big deployment, implementation costs, and like migration of data. Because everything to do, like before the CLM systems, that was mainly when you speak to people, legal tech professionals included, unfortunately, they only speak about CLMs because this is the biggest chunk. There is a lot of professional services involved. It's a very expensive tool in general. Like usually they are over $500,000. And then the implementation cost over, $700,000. There's a very complex systems and require a lot of input, but also they require data migration. So all of your contracts that are now everywhere in your SharePoint, OneDrive, your, spouse computer, somewhere. You need to gather that in, understand what is what,
map them.
And then now, again, we have a multiple middleware companies that help with like understanding and labeling of the data. But it's still very expensive because you need to like only map out. It's just not even like there is no interface for this. You can't actually see the system that you are paying for, but it's a very expensive problem to have. So if you're a smaller firm, what I would do is just to have one tool, test it out, play with it, work with it. And then when the new tool is there, you can just easily migrate. And you look at your processes, you identify the why, you identify the what, because usually people say, just because I'm afraid like everyone else is using it, I need to get this tool. And then it's a completely, and I'll give you an example. So I worked with two companies and they knew each other, like general counsels would know each other and they would speak. And one law firm took this, tool. And they came to another one and said like, oh, I took this tool. It's amazing. And they also, but this guys, they're clients of mine. So they come to me and say like, oh, we have this tool. You need to implement it for us. We've heard amazing things about it. But I know that their use cases are different. So this law firm works with bulk chunks of documents. So they need to drop them in, analyze, map out, and understand what happened, and what terms were there, what changed, like compliance, essentially, like for the laws and regulations and terms. Here, lawyers negotiate heavily. So what they need is the redlining and negotiation tool. The tools that they've selected is good for their use case, but the redlining and negotiation add-in, for example, for Word, is not even there. Or it's there, but it's less features than, the tool out of the box that you can just pick up and cheap, probably. So then this is my advice probably to like look for a simpler system and look for like your particular use cases. Ideally, if you have an understanding, if you have access to consultants that can help you like map out your process, understand your why, because this is the adoption then. Like you can have beautiful systems that no one will use. So if you start with why, if you invite all of the stakeholders to participate in this decision, if you understand what people are facing and what problems you are solving, the whole process of implementation and understanding what you need jointly, especially when you are a smaller company, is much useful, much more for your money and for your time invested. You'll get the long-lasting results for sure.
This is very cool, and I think it's really doable. But one of the biggest challenges that I always see is that how to use it. And I might be investing not so many or a lot, but even though if the training is not so easy, or if everybody in the firm is not making use of it, is like having an expensive piece of tool that no one is using and no one is able to use or know how to use, or at least
like
use 10% of the features
that you will have and never wear.
Exactly. Yeah. How do you solve that?
Systems are solving this right now. So the systems are becoming simpler. They require less training. In general, I have to say that my opinion is that I don't believe in change management. I don't believe in training. If people want to find out how it works, they can find out how it works. If there is no why, they probably won't, because it's just not they're like, it's just too complicated. Or I've been using my Excel for many years. It works just fine. If you need it, you use it. The systems got it. And so now what they're doing is they're simplifying steps and stages. So now, for example, a couple of tools that I recommend to smaller firms, they're so sensory intuitive as like iPhone. You sort of see where they're coming from. And instead of writing like this prompt, there is a button for this. Like, can you review this contract and tell me, am I protected and I'm representing this party? That's it. And it's just going to have you like review the document and help you navigate the document straight away. You don't have to train it. You don't have to create a clause library. You don't have to. It has so many precedents globally and locally that you can also feed your own. But if you don't have those, it's okay. It can help you. So the selection of the simpler systems, easier to use, is probably the higher chances you'll get people on board. Because people are busy and they're lazy and they don't want to spend hours on training.
And but this means that there's no training needed, or?
There is a minimum training needed, but more so like you do stuff on it and you sort of play with it.
Yeah, what I notice most is that it's not just the training that is the problem, it's the resistance to change is the bigger problem. And especially when you have a 10, 15 years experienced lawyer who was much more senior than the rest, and the smaller the firm, the resistance is
higher, because we know each other so much.
Exactly. So I don't know how to fix that. I mean, I'm telling you this as a problem because I see it.
It is it is a very common problem. Trust me, it's the same in small organization as it is in bigger. In bigger, you also have like games where I don't like the system, or I don't like the person that introduced the system as well. And that is even hard. This is even harder to gain because it's not that obvious and subjective. You can just like, I don't like you, and that's why I'm not going to like do whatever, support you in whatever you're doing. So there is that. But you know what I heard the other day, and I'm reading quite a lot of books on this as well, just because I'm trying to understand how. So the first book that I probably recommend is Start With Why. It's an amazing book about the reasoning behind bigger companies and their decisions into transformation. But also there is a book called Impact Players. So this book says about people that, when you hire a new professional to your firm, or you have someone in your firm, and especially if you are building it and smaller, you need to find people with the willingness to change, like with the mindset, because everything else, like skills, like you can train that, but you cannot train the willingness to change and the curiosity factor. If the person is not curious about how AI works, or how systems works, or what is happening in the market, or they're not curious to know how younger generation think, you cannot do anything, unfortunately. This is my take. You just have to deal with those people and give them pen and paper and help them then with your systems outside.
Where do you see the future of this legal technology or legal ops, where it will take us, or where it will take the firms in the coming few years?
It's very hard to predict with AI right now, just because I done a training and there was a question, for example, like last week, and there was a question whether, we can do multiple reasoning at the same time in the LLM model, and it wasn't possible. And then last week it was released, and then now you have Canvas, now you have... So the level of like add-on experiences, or like level of advancement of technology is so fast-paced that if you know that how the future looks, you're probably just bragging about it, or you can just drink a coffee and just, like do the magic. But I think general view is that lawyers are going to be supercharged by so many tech that there will be a shift in the charging, billing situation somehow. It's just coming to a point where it's inevitable. But everything else will stay the same. People still need other people, because lawyers are pretty much your, psychologists, your shrinks. You come and you don't only want to give them the problem, but you want them to support you. You want them to like look at you and say, like, everything's going to be okay. I'll sort it for you. This is what we are paying for. Companies, like larger companies, this is what they're paying for. Internally, when it's like an in-house team, what business is paying for is the lawyers to become their partners, is to lawyers to be enablers, like make it work.
Yeah.
And lawyers there not to say like, oh, you made a deal, but the terms are not right. And, like there is a term, fee burners and fee earners. Like the fee burners is what the usual term for lawyers within an organization is. Like they're just, like this blockers. So we need to change that. We need to become a part of the business. We need to automate as many processes as possible so that business is unleashed, but legal has an eye and the review on everything. So I think the system will become more orchestrated, more linked to each other. Again, Middle East is in the very best position because we don't have legacy systems that we have to deal with, like Oracles, IBMs of this world. Only a few companies here would have it. And then we are dealing with flexible systems with a lot of API connections. We can make them work together as a workflow. Like you can connect one system to another, and then you just click one button and they just processed, and everyone gets notified. And I love building those systems because you look at how, this just flows, and you're like, yay, this is the future.
Yes. I want to ask you about a very important point, because you have worked in the e-commerce when you started the platform Legal Advice Middle East in the beginning, and you worked a lot with the lawyers on the pricing of the services and the pricing that for the RFQs that you introduced later on. And you've seen as well the big firms who are through your clients with the legal tech and legal ops, and how it affects their billing, as you mentioned a few seconds ago. What is the change in the dynamics of how the lawyers make money based on the changes that's happening in technology? Because let's say corporations understand that we are using now much more technology than we used to use. We used
They require
AI.
this.
Exactly. So they understand that it is easier and it's faster, and it's not really taking us 10 hours to come up with this memo. It's probably taking us 2 hours, and we're charging for 10. That's one part. Are you, or let's say, do you imagine that the fees will have to change, the fee structures will have to change from the hourly rate into more fixed rates, or the dynamics will change?
I really don't know, but I think the fixed rate is also not a solution for that.
Yeah.
There is a saying that in order for me to draft the contract for you in 15 minutes, I've studied 10 years, and that's why I charge for 10 hours.
And it's very true.
Yes. So with AI, I'm a lawyer to review whether this is actually
correct or
correct. And there is a whole discussion on how this can work, but I think neither the way it works right now, like hourly billing or like a fixed billing, would actually solve this problem. There should be some sort of combination of the cost of the technology, the saved time, and then the perceived value, and then, there's so many aspects to it. Because again, clients now, I saw multiple RFPs when they're asking you for what kind of tools you're using, and based on what tools you're using, they can actually allow you to, work with their data.
Yeah.
So if there is a requirement like that, and we need to bear the cost as a law firm, and we need to work on, all of those, technologies, we need to train, the overall, there is a cost involved from the law firm side, and they need to distribute the cost later on like clients. So in my mind, there should be some hybrid, complex system of calculations of this, because having a fixed fee on something, it's also outdated. Or having like flexible retainer on like the number of hours, it's also outdated. Like both of these systems are not proper right now, because again, we use some of the things that are very heavy, rely on technology. Certain things we're still very heavily, rely on lawyers and their knowledge. And in order to incentivize those lawyers to actually do their job, we need to pay them. How? The whole separate question.
So it's going to change. There must be a change happening
for
with
sure.
the fees. Yes.
For sure.
So I'm running my law firm for more than a decade now, okay? And I'm very tech savvy, and I like the technology, and you know that. And I still don't see what exactly is the strategy, or building a strategy with the technology and systems will help. I know the tools that help me. I know the tools that my team are trained enough and they know it. I can imagine the tools that I would like to upgrade to, but I don't understand what is strategy and why do I need it.
Yeah, so my work this is the evolution of my profession as a legal technologist as well. Initially, like we just knew that we need for the client like a CLM system, right? We just wanted a system. They're like, come implement, or maybe if they're a little bit more advanced, they would have a benchmarking exercise. So we will look for multiple tools, we will compare them with each other, score, and then implement. Usually it's just the hard choice of, the person in charge. So there is no like proper thinking behind it. Then, because we already have so many systems in our architecture, so for example, you're using CLM, finance is using another system, then you're adding on the e-discovery tool, the laws and regulations compliance tool, and then, horizon scanning tool. They are everywhere, and we are not sure how people are using it, or how, like what from all of the processes, what things are covered and what things are not. So then my task became to build the overall strategy of where the company is moving and how, like what tool the company might need in the next decade, or not even decade, in the next, let's say, year or two, and then we break it down into the roadmap of deliverables. So what the strategy will look like is essentially, this is your state as is, this is how it can look like, and this is how to get there with whatever you have in hand. So some systems, when they are outdated, there is a whole process of changing the system and migrating it to a new one. And then if we are putting the new system in, we want it from the get-go, we want it to be connected and interlinked to existing systems, other things like board management systems and stuff. So we then check straight away. If you build in the strategy, you have like a 360 view of everything that company does, what legal department does or law firm does, in order to then understand how to connect this into the proper architecture of the firm, actions. So in short, strategy is when you know what you're doing, how you're doing it, and where you want to go from where you are right now. So I will list all of your problem areas. I will list all of the opportunities for growth. I will also explain to you how systems work. I will give you the data on all the numbers that you are missing. So for example, if I ask, there is a property platform here in the Middle East that I worked with, and when I asked their general counsel, how many times he copies and pastes the answers from the brokers to his email, he said, I don't know, maybe like 20.
Per day.
Yeah. So what I discovered is it was more than 100. It's just because it just happens so rapidly in his mind that he just does it almost automatically, and we can automate that. So you look for gaps, or you look for ways to automate things, or you look for ways to connect things. So this is what the strategy look like. For a law firm, it's less so, or it depends. Sometimes it's more about your law firm and how you operate. And sometimes it's how you operate and deal with your clients. So sometimes clients has a system that he wants you to work with or link with. And you don't want to have two CRM systems in your space. You want to have, if it's a mass litigation, for example, then you need a case matter management system that you own for other matters as well, but they also might have one because they have internal, in-house team that works on those as well. So in order for these two to connect, we also need to understand what playing field, what fields they need, and so on. So it's when you look deeper into processes, this is a strategy.
What could be the strategy for a new startup law firm? So for example, you talked a lot about migration and changes from old systems to new ones. Now I'm starting a new law firm. I just resigned from my company.
Yeah.
I got with me 2 of my colleagues and 2 admin. We are 5 people, and we're going to take it from there and start. What could be the starter's kit when it comes to legal technology?
I would sit with you on the round table and discuss the values and what do you want to be for your clients. If from the get-go, your idea is that we are going to be tech first, if your idea is that we want to serve commercial clients, if your idea is that we want to use AI, it's just a set of things that are going to become your core. And then from this core, you make a decision on what tools you need in order to serve this particular client. So if you're starting from scratch, it's amazing because you can just ask questions on who you want to be in a year or 2 years, 5 years. And then you sit and you build the strategy from the start. So this is our North Star. In 5 years, we're going to have this turnover. We are going to have this clients and maybe even names of the clients. And then you get to know what those clients, for example, if your target is Amazons of this world, what are their RFP look like? Let's ask what their requirements are and build to it so that when we are there, we are ready.
Yeah.
So this is what you do. You start from understanding who your target clients are, who you are, and how you want to operate as well.
You've mentioned a couple of times that the Middle East is in the right position because we don't have the legacy to change. Where do you see the Middle East going, especially with the flooding of population and the growing population right now?
Yeah, it's interesting because the influx of people and new talent in this region is playing a pivotal role as well. Like every single person with their experience and knowledge of, previous government setups and everything, they come here with their knowledge and understanding how things should work. And because UAE is being so different in their approach in general, they are AI first, they are everything, the newest, the biggest, the best. It's sort of the combination of these two creates a good ecosystem, the good environment for growth, because there are resources for that. I can see that a lot of people invest a lot of money and time into the systems, into AI, into the opportunities that are out there. And there are talents to actually execute it and do it best. Because before, you had the resources but had no talent to do it. So now all two coming together in a beautiful, sort of chemical reaction is happening out of this. And then the other thing, the fact that UAE from the get-go decided that they're going to be AI first, and they sort of jump on a plane before it was even recognized by so many players on the market. We now are more advanced in many systems. And I think the good example maybe for this would be like China. They went from, paper money into the phone payments, and they skipped the cards completely because it was so long into the game that the cards were globally everywhere and the cash was not, and for China, for a very long time, it was only cash. And then they shifted straight away into phone payments. UAE pretty much did the same. We went from no systems whatsoever to the most advanced systems in the world because we had the resources, no legacy system, the talent is here, the opportunities are here, and also the vision is here. I worked with national oil companies in here and property portals and, the airline companies. All of them have leaders who truly believe that systems can work differently. And they're ready to invest in it, train themselves, be curious about it, and just go for it. Unlike everywhere else where we have people who would think about it and who will be afraid of, there are still certain regulations on the data. And they're very strict. But other than that, people can do, can I say epic?
You can.
They can do epic projects in here and like never and nowhere before.
If anybody would like to take up a career in the legal tech or what we call legal ops, what are the steps and where would they start?
I've seen so many different people coming to this from different angles. If you are a student, probably this is where you will start to learn different technologies and be curious in tech. And then you start trying, and there are so many platforms that will give you access free of charge just because you're a student. Use that. See whether this is interesting. Even if you are not going to become legal technologists, you probably are going to be more advanced than any of your peers. Good bonus. If you are a lawyer who is inspired by the technology and wants to use it, then there are so many trainings as well, and free of cost, YouTube everywhere. You just ask and play with it. But in general, if you want to take this as a career choice, then you start where you are. Look at the things around you that doesn't work and try and make it work with the help of technology, with the help of change of processes. Whatever you see as a solution, just try and implement it. You'll see how hard it is to convince people, how hard it is to get the right data, the right placeholders. You will see all of the nitties and gritties of this process, and you will understand whether this is yours. If it's yours, how it was for me, for example, when I first started working with my law firm at that time, I realized that my life will never go back to proper lawyering. I just knew that my future is in this. I need to work. I love messy problems. I love messy systems. I love when there is no system whatsoever. And this is my core value. I come and I see opportunities everywhere. If you are that, this is definitely a way for you.
I'll take you the other way around. You mentioned at the beginning of the talk that no universities are teaching legal technology. And I know for a fact that you did a few courses as well in this field.
For postgraduates, though.
Exactly. What do you say to all the universities of law, and what's your advice to them? Just because of the practical side and what you see of the market, what is needed for lawyers to be trained for? That's number one. And number two, until this happen, where can we get the proper courses that is not just blah, blah, blah information, because there's so many, just the proper courses and a proper education material that we take for legal ops and legal tech?
Yeah. Well, I have a tendency to take, for my personal professional development, I take a course every year on something. MIT has a number of courses online that you can take. Boston University also released a number of IT-specific, legal-oriented courses. So you look for ways to get the new certification all the time. At least for me, this is my ongoing, never stopping kind of
practice.
Yes,
I know.
It's what I do on a daily. I read. I build myself an automation where I scan out the news and then it filters down through it with AI and just gives me the snippets of what is interesting, what can concern me. So this is my newsletter. I receive it every week. And I go, and if there is something interesting, more particular about something that I do, I just go deeper and I do the research on the deeper things. So I build it on make.com, or there are plenty of tools, bardeen.com. There are plenty of automation tools. You can do it. It's free of cost. You just plug in all of the sources and you look for information that is relevant to you. I think if you are curious enough, you'll find education globally. I'm not so sure about the Middle East as, like, for example, I took a course the year before last in Bucerius Law School. Amazing course on legal ops and AI. And it gave me a lot of, it's not only the fact that you were given the knowledge and you can take it, but also the network and the mindset of the people that are there. Like I'm usually the youngest person in the room. I get used to it. There, I was one of the oldest.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was one of the oldest, and it was amazing because the certain things that I thought I knew were sort of challenged by the youngsters who came from all over the globe, and they were putting their challenges in. So putting yourself in the situation, I wish I'm still looking forward to working with the universities here more, because I was invited to sort of consult on the bachelor's degree and the master's degree in a couple of universities here in Dubai. And it never actually got into the point when they announced the legal tech as a part of the main curriculum. Usually it's just a course on the side. Usually just for postgrads as a part of the certification. It's something different, but not really what people need.
Thank you very much.
Likewise.
It's very interesting talk.
Likewise.
We learned a lot.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here with you. Anytime. I don't think we ever spoke about this so deeply with you.
It's the first time.
Yeah.
That's good. We learned a lot. I hope everybody enjoyed. And I thank you very much for coming and for dedicating the time.
Pleasure.
Thank you. And this is your dose for Monday Legal. See you next week.